If you need some help for this assignment, you've come to the right place. That being said, I am not really going to do much coding here. I'm going to do more talking and explaining because you know the code you need to do this. It's just a matter of what order do you want to put things in. So we'd start off with this maybe. Okay, so we need a number from 1 to 100 for the person to guess, right? So you'd create a random number and from 1 to 100. And so you could probably do that. You would assign it into some, variable. And then you want the user to start guessing. Guess the number. So you'd ask them, to input a guess. And you could use some if statements to say if that number was too low, you tell them. And if that number is too high, you tell them. And now that works if there's just one guess and they happen to get it right, but we don't know how long it might take. If you're good at this guessing game, the maximum number of guesses it should take you is 100, or not 100, that would be terrible. The maximum number of guesses it should take you is about 7 because you can come up with a way to do that. That's a whole nother algorithm for how to guess a number, but we won't get into that. If you're guessing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're doing it wrong. There's better ways to guess numbers, right? So since we don't know how long it's going to take, then we're going to need a loop, obviously, right? So at the beginning of this, you're going to want to put a while their guess is wrong. So you have to figure out, how do I ask them if their guess is wrong. I will say here's a tip that sometimes I get wrong, is that I might put my while up here because I think, okay, I need a loop. And then if you put the while before you create the random number, then every time you ask them to guess the number, the computer will have created a new random number. And that's going to be really hard to get right or wrong. You want the computer to create that random number once, and then they start guessing at it, right? So what do you do if you get it right? Well, they're either too high, they're too low, or they're right. So when they're right, the while loop will stop. So down here, you can say, good job, you did it. So that's pretty much the thinking that you need. I will give you another hint here, is that you might want to, as you're creating the program, output the random number, because that way you can see what it is and you can purposely go higher and purposely go lower to make sure the random number is working, because otherwise it could be kind of hard to troubleshoot your own game. But if you leave that in there, that's going to kind of be, boring for the person if you tell them the answer. So use that for a troubleshooting, but don't actually leave it in there. The other thing is here, this while statement is probably going to look something like while guess does not equal number, or something like that. If you do this, you're going to find out that guess is going to give you an error because they didn't put the input into here, right? Because this is where they actually do their input. So at the top, it's probably a good idea to set guess equal to 0 so that it has something to start at, so you don't get an error in your while statement. And then there's only one more piece of it, which is how do you count how many times they've gotten something wrong, so you can tell them at the end, hey, it took you this many number of guesses. So that would be nice to be able to count that. And the basic way you want to do that is you want to set some counting variable to 0 at the beginning because they haven't guessed yet. And then every time they guess, you would just increase the count of guesses so that at the end you can say, well, it looks like it's taken you 5 times and then you finally got it right. So basically that's the thinking you need to do this. It's just a matter of actually implementing, you're using conditionals, you're using loops, you're using random numbers, you're using input and output, but you know how to do all that. It's just a matter of putting it together, which is what makes this kind of fun. It's a program I could play forever. I don't know why. I guess I'm easily amused. I hope you are too, and that you find this enjoyable.